The new Umbral monument called Turbidity Manifest is finally unlocked for you to challenge new enemies and claim those crowns to fully level up your characters. I've already cleared everything including agony mode, where enemies can easily one-shot you to the afterlife. So in today's video, I'm going to take you through everything and provide some tips and tricks that can help you maintain your sanity while playing agony mode, including character positioning, choice of teammates for certain floors, which target to focus on, and when you should and should not be doing damage to an enemy. Let me take you through my choice of teammates and their respective builds. I'm using a free-to-play Fang Yi team. Fang Yi is using her signature weapon with underleveled stats because my essence still needs a bit of an upgrade. I'm using 3-piece Zero and Flow set and she's at potential 0. Perlica is using Wild Wanderer with 3-piece Chimbo set and she's at potential 5. I'm using Akakuri instead of Arklights because Arklights buffs from this passive takes way too long to activate even at potential 5. Akakuri is using Thermite Cutter with 3-piece Frontiers and she's at potential 5. Finally, Antal is using Detonation Unit with 3-piece Eternal Zero Night set and he's at potential 5. Keep in mind that this new Umbral monument has 6 floors unlike the previous ones that had 3. So let's start with the first floor. This will be the easiest floor because the enemies here are not that aggressive compared to the other floors. You just need to look out for this special attack right here from the humanoid enemies. It's a multi-hit combo that can drain a lot of HP. So when they get close and you see a red glow around them, that's your cue to dodge or step away from them. They always have to come close to you to do this, so you can always maintain your distance from them while filling your ultimate to do damage, which brings us to the second tip. Never stay in the middle while fighting these enemies. It locks you in place where you can take damage from multiple directions, so always try to stay at the edge of the platform while fighting them if possible. So you can see here that I tried to stay at the edge of the platform with Fang Yi as much as possible in her normal form, but after I entered her ultimate state, it didn't really matter because her area of effects for doing damage can wipe out everything. The same applies if you're using a DPS character like Levitain, for example. Just don't stay in the center for them to gang up on you, but once you pop her ultimate, it won't really matter your positioning because she can spam her attacks in a very wide area of effect, which can easily stagger them because they are small-sized enemies and prevents them from attacking you. On the topic of keeping your distance, some of the humanoid enemies can shoot projectiles like this one right here to counter the strategy that I just mentioned, so be sure to keep that in mind. Let's move on to floor 2. This floor is quite easy, just like the first one. You need to prioritize eliminating the snails first if you want to have an easier time on this floor. The snails will always distract you with their projectiles if you only focus on the big guy. Keep in mind that their aiming really sucks, so you can sometimes ignore them and go full Unga Bunga without any proper strategy on this floor, but I only recommend that you do that if you have a really good healer on your team, like Ardelia for example, because the projectiles do a very concerning amount of damage. Once you're done with the snails, the big guy is very predictable and should be no challenge as long as you explore more often in the overworld, which is necessary before you even try endgame. This will help you memorize its attack patterns since you get to fight a lot of them in the overworld. If you haven't memorized its attack patterns yet, just watch out for the charge attacks. It'll be telegraphed on the ground before it starts charging at you, so you have plenty of time to dodge. That's pretty much the only annoying attack that you need to look out for. Once the big guy is sent to the afterlife, the enemies left will all be snails, which will be very easy for you to wipe them out. Floor 3 is the hardest floor in my opinion. It's made up of these blue and purple enemies right here. They will not attack you but will keep heading for the blue stone right here. As soon as they touch it or reach it, it releases an ice shockwave that does a lot of damage to your characters at the same time. The blue enemies can be staggered while attacking them, so it's pretty easy for you to push them back by spamming attacks, but the purple ones can make you reevaluate your life choices because they cannot be staggered by any attack that you throw at them. Not even Gilberta's skill can group the purple enemies, so they just keep coming unless you eliminate them before they reach the blue stone. The only counter to the purple enemies are abilities that apply the slow debuff in a large area of effect to enemies like Gilberta's ultimate, which can buy you a few seconds for you to wipe them out. To make matters even worse, it'll get to a point where they'll start spawning in 2 groups instead of 1 group at a time, which can make you go crazy trying to determine which enemy to prioritize. So here's a tip to help you out. Since most DPS in Enfield rely on their ultimate to enter a different state and do lots of damage, don't pop your ultimate too soon because it might not be available when you really need it. focus on eliminating the enemies in your normal form until you eliminate 14 of those enemies. I recommend pairing your DPS with a sub DPS that can do decent damage in a large area of effect. Perlica was very useful for this role with my team choice. After eliminating 14 of those enemies, that's when they start spawning in two groups from left to right. This is the time to pop your ultimate and do as much damage as possible so that you can eliminate plenty of them in one fell swoop. I still got sent flying a couple of times even when applying this strategy, but it worked out just fine and should work for almost any DPS that you want to use in the game as long as they do damage in a large area of effect. Now let's move on to floor 4. This boss is quite easy to deal with. It has a few attack animations that can be interrupted with a skill or combo skill. Most of its attacks leave it wide open to take damage, like this one right here where it spits out smaller enemies to distract you. The first tip is to always close the distance or always get close to it as much as possible, so that while it's stuck in a vulnerable animation like this one right here, you'll be free to do damage or prepare your ultimate without any interruption. Another tip is to ignore the small enemies it spits out and just focus on the boss itself, and the reason is quite simple. The smaller ones do not have any long range attacks, so they always have to get close to you before they can do damage to you, and you'll always be moving anyway, trying to close the distance between you and the boss, so you'll rarely take damage from the small enemies. And once the ultimate for your entire team is fully charged, it'll be easy to eliminate the boss and the smaller enemies as long as you're using a DPS that does damage in a wide area of effect. Now let's move on to floor 5. This is the second most annoying floor for this Umbral monument. Floor 3 takes the first spot as the most annoying, and nobody can change my mind. The goal is to eliminate this red frog right here, but it has an annoying habit of summoning its green frog brothers and sisters right at the beginning of the fight. And to make matters even worse, dealing damage to the green frogs will not deplete the HP bar of the red one, and the red one is the one that you have to eliminate. So the goal here is to keep evading all of them and do damage to the red frog at the same time, which makes it very easy to run out of stamina. To be honest, the only tip that I can give to you about this floor is to be really good at dodging until you break the red frog's stagger meter, because that's when its frog brothers and sisters will disappear and stop bothering you. I know this doesn't really sound like a tip, but there's no way to come up with a proper strategy when everyone is trying to jump you at the same time with no breaks. If you fail to time your dodges perfectly, you'll burn through a lot of stamina, and that's what they want. This floor took the power of friendship way too seriously. Finally, we have floor 6, which is much easier than you think. This boss will generate a thick shield around him when the battle begins, and in this state, the damage it takes is significantly reduced. The strategy here is to break his stagger meter and the shield will disappear. It's also very easy to fill his stagger meter and break it because all of his attacks can be interrupted with a battle skill or combo skill, which fills a huge amount of his stagger meter, as you can see right here. So all you need to do is keep staggering it with your skills to fill the stagger meter while generating energy for the ultimate of all your teammates. You might have to break a stagger meter twice before you can get enough time to fully recharge your ultimate, but it's pretty easy because this boss doesn't really have like a second phase where its attack animations are different. It'll just keep repeating the same patterns that can be interrupted with your skills to build up the stagger meter very fast and pop your ultimate after it's broken to do massive damage. Keep in mind that while the shield is up, all of its attacks will freeze you for a few seconds, and it'll allow it to follow up with more attacks while you're frozen, so try not to get hit more often. If you run out of SP to interrupt its attacks with your skills, you can evade this attack by jumping forward when it gets as close as possible. This attack will create these things on the ground in a large area of effect, which is meant to limit your mobility, so it's best to interrupt them with your skills. But if you can't, just keep moving to avoid them and try not to step on them. This attack will freeze you as long as you come into contact with a blue line on the ground, so if you don't touch it, you won't get frozen. This attack is normally followed up with a death ray, and you can avoid the death ray if you keep moving, which is not possible if you're frozen. Finally, this one is a ground homing attack that can also be avoided if you keep moving. And that's pretty much everything you need to know for this Umbral Monument reset. You should not have a tough time as long as you apply these tips and you're using a DPS unit that does damage in a wide area of effect. Feel free to share your thoughts about this reset to help others clear it very easily. Our Discord link will be in the pinned comment if you're having any issues with Enfield or you just want a place to chill or hang out. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.